many, many years. Actually, since the racetrack was created, and the Alabama gang was world famous back in the 50s and the 60s and in the 70s, and they really helped Talladega become what it is today. They're really synonymous with each other. We're very, very proud that the two are linked together, especially whenever you talk about the legends that are the charter members of the Alabama gang. I'd like to bring up those three charter members up here right now, and the first one, he's a the 1983 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion, winner of more than 80 races. He says 85. The NASCAR yearbook says 84. Bobby, I'm going with you, 85. He's also a four-time winner here at Talladega. Give it up for Bobby Allison. Now I'd like to bring up his brother, who won't mince words. Oh, okay. Let's bring up the gentleman with the nice goatee, the gray goatee, and he'll be racing this weekend over at Talladega Short Track, right? This guy's won more than 1,000 races. He's a two-time ARCA Racing Series winner here at Talladega. He's a three-time NASCAR late model sports champion. Give it up for Red Farmer. And a guy who's won here twice in his career is a 10-time winner in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. And again, he will not mince words. Give it up for Donnie, Allison. Also like to say we've got some other folks here that, again, these guys are the original charter members of the Alabama gang. They've touched a lot of lives here in this state. They've touched a lot of other race car drivers. A few years later, after this organization was created, they let a few other folks in, and Neil Bonnet was one of those guys, and Susan Bonnet, Northcutt, she's in the house. Susan, you back somewhere? Give a wave to Susan. Absolutely. Neil won a race here back in 1980. We also have Liz Allison Hackett and her daughter, Kristen. They're in the house back here. Davey, three-time winner here in the Cup Series. So very, very proud to have you guys here. Also, Grant Enfinger. Where's Grant? Grant will be going for a record fourth ARCA Series victory here in our Saturday race, the International Motorsports Hall of Fame 200. He's won the first three races of the ARCA season. No one in the history of 62 years has won four straight to begin the season. That gentleman has a chance to do it. Also, back in the back, absolutely. His teammate, Justin Allison, the grandson of Donnie. Justin ran up in the Daytona race back in February, had a great, great day until someone had an accident in front of him and he had nowhere to go. But he'll be a contender here. We're very ecstatic to have Justin Allison back in the back. Justin. We're also very, very proud to have a very good friend here at Talladega. This guy, he hails from Birmingham, Alabama. He's won 23 races as a crew chief, and now you get to see him every week calling the action for NASCAR on Fox. How about to give it up for Larry McReynolds? A couple other guys that wanted to be here today but had scheduling conflicts. Robbie Allison, who is Davey's son, who is now competing in the Mooresville area in Legends cars and late model cars. He wanted to be here, but he had something come up, so he couldn't be here. Also, Bubba Wallace Jr., who's a regular in the truck series. He wanted to be here as well. He'll be here on Friday, to talk a little bit more about what the Alabama gang means to him. But before we get started and I bring Grant up, I'd like to play something for you that just sort of shows you how big the Alabama gang is to Talladega Super Speedway. So if we could, just take a listen to this audio piece.
Allisons, Alabama, the leader of the Alabama gang, Bobby Allison, qualified at 187.064.
5 laps to go, and the leader of the Alabama gang, Bobby Allison, is on the point of this tight draft to see who wins the Winston 500.
Starting 19th, the three-time national sportsman champion of the United States, Red Farmer, Hueytown, Alabama, in a Ford. Red Farmer staying very much in the race. Another member of the Alabama gang should be figuring in the top 10 the next 10 or 15 laps as he continues to move up.
It's more with the Alabama gang. It's Bobby in front, Donnie right behind.
Donnie Allison has just moved into 10th position. He started 41st.
100,000 race fans come to their feet as Bonnet cuts to the inside and takes the lead.
And they do it. Neil Bonnet comes to the line, one Carly Clay.
carries the Haviland Ford to the start-finish line and wins the Winston 500.
The fans are delirious. They're on their feet here at Talladega. Everybody mixing it up. Coming off the turn is Allison, the leader. But here is Baker, here is Walter, and here's Rudd.
As they come down the line, Bobby Allison takes the low green. Buddy Baker takes the high route, trying to get around. Ricky Rudd drops to the inside as they come across the stripe. Allison will win the Winston 500. Some of us vociferous racing fans, they are Alabama fans. They cheer for this Alabama gang like they cheer for Bear Bryant's group in Alabama.
Allison comes back on the high side out of turn 4. He's got the lead. Here where the start-finish line would be in Daytona, Allison would win it, but coming out of the trial, Earnhardt, one last chance. He can't do it. Bobby Allison wins the Winston 500.
Tell you what, I am happy. I just don't know what to say. I'm just really thrilled.
You can see a lot of exciting moments here at Talladega with the Alabama gang, and you know these guys are the charter members. And looking back at the record books, you know there have been over 40 drivers, over 50 drivers who have gone on to race here from the fine state of Alabama. But these are the guys who got it started, and to continue a little bit more, I'd like to bring up our chairman, Grant Lynch.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to say to all of the members of the Alabama gang, current members, past members, members that are no longer with us, and their families that are here today, you can't run Talladega Super Speedway without appreciating what this group of people and everybody with them has meant not only to Talladega, but to the whole sport of NASCAR. You know, there isn't another state that has a gang like we do. And as Russell was just saying, it's 50 deep or more. You know, we quit counting. And to have these guys come here about every race, I don't think y'all miss many. And anything that we ask them to do to interact with the fans, they do it. And that is truly special, and they're special people, and y'all mean so much to us here. And so we couldn't thank you and all the family members that are here today. We can't thank y'all enough either. So God bless each of you, and I hope you're here many, 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 many more times.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you.
Grant?
Yeah. Oh, we're going to take this down. Hold this on.
They will permanently be a part of Talladega.
So we have decided to rename the backstretch at Talladega the Alabama Gang Super Stretch. And it's back there on the wall, and we'll probably be putting another one down towards turn 2 as well. But I think this starts another phase at Talladega of where we're going to reach back to members of the Alabama gang and continue to make them part of Talladega going forward. And this isn't the last thing we're going to do. There'll be some more things coming in future years as well to tell y'all again how much all of y'all mean to us.
Well, Grant, I want to tell you, on behalf of Bobby Red and myself, and I'm sure all the other people included, this is a tremendous honor. Talladega, to me, means home. I was, just for the record, the very first race car driver to ever make a lap around this racetrack in a race car. I was the very first race car driver to ever make a lap around Talladega in a race car. And it's quite an honor. I think you do a tremendous job with this place, Grant, and I'm proud to be part of it.
I believe after about 5 laps, you were scared to death, too.
We're going to take some questions, Russell.
Well, let's see. Red, what does Talladega mean to you, Red? You've won a couple of ARCA races here before. You're still in this area. You race weekly over here. But what does this facility mean to you?
Talladega is home track. I mean, I live down in Hueytown. We all lived in Hueytown down there, just 60 miles down the road. So this is my home track. And I was out here the first time when I was talking about Donnie being scared when they ran that first tire test that they ran down here. And he ran about 3 laps and disintegrated the tire already just in 3 laps. And that's the reason they had the problem with the first race. And I was down there for that, and I've been down there ever since. So, well, I was at Daytona when they first run the first race at Daytona too. So, but this is my home track, Talladega. And like I said, you know, I won a couple of ARCA races here and ran up in the top 10, so I finished 4th in the Talladega 500. I didn't run that many cup races because I was running motorsport from the short track. But, and then I quit running over here for a while, so I just go across the street and run over there in the Talladega short track now. So but these are my 2 home tracks, both of them in Talladega.
Bobby, what's some of your memories of this place, and what does this racetrack mean to you?
Well, you know, you got great memories of the place. I was flying on Mooney at the time and taking up flying along the way, and they're building this place, and I could land the Mooney out here on the old part of the airstrip that still existed in the infield and come and watch them push the dirt around and everything. And actually brought Davey over here one day, and Bill Moss put Davey on a tractor with him and went out and showed him the layout from the contractor standpoint. I thought that was really neat, and you know, to be able to come back here and get some wins here and have some really good days here and have Donnie run good here, and even had to race him a few times, fender to fender. And one time we did race fender to fender, and the scoundrel beat me. But I've got over that pretty good so far. But at any rate, there's some great times here, and this is home.
I'd like to, Larry McReynolds, come over a second. Give it up to Larry. Larry, just have a just from your standpoint, you being from Birmingham, you know what the Alabama gang means to the state of Alabama, what it means to this racetrack. But tell the media what you feel inside when you look at these 3 guys and what they have meant to NASCAR and to motorsports in general.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's enough time left in the day to talk about these 3 guys here to my right and what they meant to NASCAR, what they meant to motorsports, but more than anything, what they meant to the great state of Alabama. You know, being from Birmingham, being from Alabama, our world was all about racing, and of course there is the Crimson Tide football too. That's another story. But you know, to grow up and watch these guys race, I can remember going to VIR when I wasn't even hardly in grammar school, and to watch these 3 guys here race at VIR, and I mean race and race hard, and it didn't matter who came to try to outrun them. You had your work cut out for you if you were going to outrun any of these 3 guys, and you know, all 3 of these guys have touched my life and my career in many ways. I've told the story many times. Donnie Allison down there on the right, he pretty much gave me words of wisdom when I decided to pack up and go to the Carolinas to pursue NASCAR as my career. Red Farmer, if I had $1 for every time we tested with Red in that 28 car, a lot of times Davey was off doing some other racing, came right here 1 week before we won the 1992 Daytona 500 because we were in trouble throughout testing that winter, and we decided to come back down here and give it one more shot. Davey had went to Phoenix to run the Copper Classic, so we got Red to come down here, and I know about 2 laps after the first run, Red looked at me and said he's going to like what y'all done with these race cars, and it didn't let us down. And this guy to my right, I can't say enough about what he's just meant to me and to my family, him and Judy, and in Pat and Donnie. Just I know my last name is McReynolds, but somewhere in there I know in parentheses there's an Allison too, and to be a part of Davey's career, even got to work with Neil a little bit on some late model stuff back in the day when I was working for Bobby Ray Jones. But there's no question, when I made the move to Robert Yates Racing, but more than anything to work with Davey Allison, who not only was the race car driver that I worked with, he was absolutely my best friend, and to be a part of his career. And yeah, 123 races, 2 500s, 1 included with Davey. I have to say, winning here at my home track with Davey Allison, I could hear the excitement in Davey's voice several weeks out from when we would come here to race. And to be able to see him, he pulled in the victory lane here 3 times, but I was only able to coattail it once. That was a very, very special time. But not only have these 3 guys put Alabama, along with Neil and Davey and everyone else that's been part of the Alabama game. Not only have they put motorsports on the map in Alabama, but in my book, they put sports on the map in Alabama.
Larry, you brought up a few of the ladies, Judy, Pat, Liz, Krista. The Alabama gang is what they are because of those ladies. I just want to make sure we give them a round of applause. Kristen drove up from Orlando yesterday to be here, and Liz drove in from Nashville. So they had a long way to come. We really appreciate them being here. So about the young guns here, where the torch is sort of being passed. Grant and Justin, why don't you come over here for a second?
Yeah, this guy walking up here right now has done something that you don't ever hear of. He's won the first 3 ARCA races and got a good shot at making a 4 in a row here, like Russell said earlier. This guy not only drives his race car, but he also prepares it. He works on it every day, and I'll give it to him. I'll let him do the talking. This cat right here.
Grant, what do you think about what is sitting over here to your left? Now that they're a permanent part of this racetrack, you grew up in Alabama. What does this mean to you?
I tell you what, I really appreciate it. I think it's a huge part of everybody here in Alabama. Just growing up, Davey was my hero, but Donnie and Bobby and Red, I mean, these are all guys we've all looked up to forever. Still think it's awesome. Red's still getting it done in the dirt cars. I think that's probably one of the best things we know about. It's really cool having Donnie come to the shop and learning from those guys. Don't have a long relationship with these guys, but hopefully it lasts a while longer. But it's just incredibly special to me from being from Alabama. When I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I was always coming up here with my dad. We'd always sit in the grandstands, and it's an honor to be able to run out here, and it's an honor to be able to run this Saturday with the ARCA series. And all these guys up here, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even be in racing. I don't know what I'd be doing, but it sure wouldn't be as fun as what we're doing now.
Justin, your thoughts? You've heard all the stories about your grandfather. And it's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up hearing these stories about all 3 of these guys. I mean, that's pretty much everywhere we went. I mean, everywhere. Someone like, oh, you remember that time whenever this happened and this, and it's like, I could probably repeat them word for word. But, I never, growing up, I never thought of them as the big racers. It was always Paul and Uncle Bobby. And, I mean, that's just from the inside looking in, I mean, I wasn't sitting in Grant's shoes where, they're still my heroes by all means, but it was because of the people and not the race car drivers. And then as I got older, I started realizing that, man, this is a big deal, and for them to kind of take me under their wing, even though I'm their grandson and great nephew, I mean, it's a big honor to me, and feels like a pretty good accomplishment for me. And like Grant said, I hope, we got a long time, with them, and many more years to come. And, the sky's the limit for me and Grant. Their time driving's done and over. Now it's mine and Grant's turn to pick up the reins and keep digging.
Guys, if you want to, we'll open it up. I'm going to put this chair up here for Justin. Guys, if you want to, we'll just open it up for questions. Stan. Right here.
Stan Creepmore with RPMTonight.com. And gentlemen, I understand how you feel about your fathers and your uncles and Red Farmer. They're fantastic people, but what I want to know right now is a much deeper description of 3 laps at this place. The very first person to ever take a car around here. Can you go deeper into those 3 laps?
Well, I'm the first one who drove a race car around here.
I understand.
I mean, there's people that took street cars around, but I was in awe when I went out on the racetrack, being I'd run Daytona a bunch of times. I mean, you know, I wasn't new to that. But when I first went around this racetrack, I'm out there and it looked like, to me, it looked like I-20 compared to 19th Street in Bessemer. I couldn't believe how wide it was, how much more room I had. It's only 12 feet wider than Daytona, but it looks like it's probably 40 or 50 feet wider. And the bank is only 1 degree more, or whatever it is, but it felt like it was 10 or 15 degrees more. And like Red said, the other thing that I was really shocked about was the bad side of it, how rough it was. I could not believe that the racetrack was already that rough. And going into turn 1, I couldn't even begin to fathom how it could be that rough. And then in the middle of 3 and 4, more around toward the tunnel, it was that way again. And as you remember, when we came here first time, that was where we had all the problems. They were fixing the corner up there the night before qualifying, and they didn't. But anyway, I'll go back to this. It impressed me the first time I went around here of the racetrack, but then it also shocked me a little bit about the feeling. Now, my grandson ran a test here 2 weeks ago, never had been around here in a race car in his life, and I'll let him tell you what he said when he came in the very first time.
It's rough.
And I mean, when you drive a race car, people don't really get the fathom of this. They're on a lot stiffer springs. The racetrack might feel way worse than it does if you ride around here in a Chrysler 300, which was being done at the time. But anyway, to me, right now, I would rather run here than any other super speedway that we ran on. To me, Talladega has always been, the race is not over until it's over. And what I mean by that, if you're anywhere in that pack, you have a chance until after the checkered flag falls. Is that not right, Frank? And it's just, like I said, to get back to your original question about the track the first time, I was in awe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions for him? I've lost my MC. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Russell. You need to hold the microphone? All right. Donnie, Bobby, 2 questions, please. Just what did you think as the radio tribute was going on when we first got up on the stage today? What were you kind of thinking about as you were listening to those old calls? And secondly, because we're talking about the backstretch here where the nameplate is going to go, do you have any memories about running back there? Anything that just sticks out over all these years when you raced back there?
Well, for me personally, you know, the racetrack has always been awesome, and been a special place. It's been here at home. Like I said a little bit earlier in one of my conversations, I was flying a little Mooney when they built this place, and I could come land in the infield on some of the old airstrips that still existed here, and I do that. Bring Davey along. In fact, Davey went out with Bill Moss on a tractor on I guess it's the first time I came over here, and Davey saw the racetrack from Bill Moss's viewpoint, and I thought that was really neat. Really up on that. The back straightaway, I didn't particularly have any great memory of that, except I did crash really bad there one day. So let's talk about something else.
Yeah, let me tell you about the backstretch, folks. I'm glad you asked that question, because I got the best story for the backstretch. We made pit stops, we came out, and Buddy Baker was behind me driving a 71 car. Maybe the 11, I don't know, one of the 2 cars. He was driving a Dodge. Dick Brooks was driving Junior Don Levy's number 90 Truxmore car, and I was in Los Allisons' number 1 Hawaiian Tropic car. Well, Buddy came by coming off the corner and dove in front of me, and really there wasn't as much room as for me. There was cameras right there, and Brooks was behind him, and Brooks tried to get in that same hole. Well, my left front fender was in the way, and it turned him sideways toward the outside wall like that. Of course, I lifted off the throttle, and he turns back toward the infield, sliding with his nose toward the infield and his back toward the racetrack, and the car turned over the wrong way. It flew in the air like this and turned upside down. Of course, I was going by, and so I didn't really see when he hit, and later he come down and flipped over and over and over. But I mashed the radio button coming through 3 and 4, and I said to Hoss and them, I said, y'all are not going to believe what I just saw. What is it? What is it? I said, a car turned over the wrong way. The first time I'd ever seen that happen. And it was like 15 feet from me out the window. And so that's my memory of this backstretch.
All right. Here we go.
I guess this question is for all 3 members of the gang. Just with the ratings drop on television and the attendance drop for NASCAR in the last decade, why do you think that's happened, and what would you guys do to fix that, to get that back to where it was maybe say 10 years ago?
Well, I would say that we need to put a little more emphasis on the positive on the people. You know, we were families, and you know, our wives and children came, and our parents, and you know, the community backed us. And the current guys come in their motor coach with their handler or 3 or 4 PR people, and they don't talk to anybody. They don't sign autographs. They don't go to little short tracks, even to watch. You know, when I didn't go to the short track to race, at least I went over there to watch Red or somebody. And you know, get the enthusiasm back in about racing, not just NASCAR Sprint Cup racing, but the enthusiasm about racing, and the idea that the whole family can be part of it.
Let me add to that. Red, go ahead.
I think it's what he's talking about. It's a family order, and it's got to be. You've got to get the families back into it. Get the kids and all of their teenagers. They've got too many machines to play with in the living room and push buttons all day. They don't get out and do things that they should. You know, I think if they get all the kids out and get them hunting and fishing and going to racing and stuff and get them enthused into the racing world. And look, like Bobby said, I think you've got to make sure that the drivers, the heroes, even though they're making millions of dollars, they still got to remember that the people in the grandstands once pays their salary. Without them people up at the grandstand, they're not going to have any income. So they've got to take care of those people in the grandstand, sign the autographs when they want to, maybe slow down a couple of steps when they're trying to run to meet the schedule, and take time to talk to the people that they sign the autographs for. And then I think they'll come back. But you can't forget the fans. They're the one that makes the payroll, and you've got to make them happy. And I think if you get the kids interested in it, more into it nowadays, because they're going to be the next one paying the bills in 10 years from now. So they're the ones going to buy the tickets. So I'd say the same thing over at the dirt tracks. I told them over there at Talladega, you've got to get the fans back into the grandstands, get the families into it, have it everything where they're comfortable. Make it a nice association with it.
Well, I second all that, and the thing that I see coming now, this year here, NASCAR, in my opinion, has worked very hard to get the racing back to where the guys are racing. I was telling Grant Lynch earlier that I really want to see this weekend have a good weekend weather-wise, because I think we're going to see the best race here that we've seen in a long time. The guys, every race so far this year has been that way. The guys can drive their race cars, they can race, and this place right here is probably one of the best places that we got to show that. The other thing that I say that I feel like has been wrong over the years, the last 8 anyway, is everything derogatory. I mean, the news media and everything else don't seem like we can ever pat anybody on the back for helping an old lady across the street. We got to praise the guy that run through the water hole and threw water all over her. And I mean, it's difficult because it's so money oriented, and I know the people all looking for sponsors, the media, they got to sell the show, and but let's do like Bobby said and Red. Let's get back. Let's go back to racing like we did before. I know the cars are different, but the race still starts at the green flag and then the checker flag, and whatever the hell happens in the middle, that's part of racing.
Larry, speak to that, because you're in television. You know what's happening. Speak to that, because I think you've got some interesting things to say.
Just for the record, I am not media.
I understand that. Yes, sir.
No, I work hard to look at the glass half full versus half empty. And we're obviously, I think, a huge victim of our success. Yeah, 2003, 2004, maybe even 2005 and 6, if you built it, they would come. And then obviously a lot of things happened in that era, and we've never recovered from it, like a lot of sports, a lot of businesses. But to Donnie's point, I only pick up the newspaper and read about 20,000 empty seats. I don't read a damn thing about there were 80,000 people there. 80,000 people. Yeah, okay, there were 20,000 empty seats, but there still were 80,000 people there. And even with where we're at today, we're second only by a long shot to the NFL in ratings and attendance. It's one reason that my boss is Fox. They're putting this qualifying show on Fox Saturday because we're out rating their game of the week baseball game with qualifying shows. So the product's good. I don't know how you can make the product any better. I do believe that a little bit also, I think to Donnie's point, people have so many options today. You know, when I'm traveling during the 17 races that Espen has it, I don't watch the television. I keep up with the race right here because I can. So there's so many other options. I think it's one reason we have to keep working to shorten things up. It's one thing that I applaud about what NASCAR in conjunction with the tracks and the broadcast partners did with qualifying. I think the day of a fan sitting at home or even in those stands and watching one driver at a time for 2.5 hours, we've outrun those days. So now we've got something that a fan can say in an hour and a half, I'm going to be able to watch some exciting qualifying shows, and I know in an hour and a half it's going to be over with. So I do like the direction. I'm not sure we're ever going to get back to where we were, 8 or 9 years ago, but you know what? We're pretty damn good right now. And I don't say that because I'm paid to say that. I say that because I believe it.
Yes, sir.
Right here.
Dave Keenan, Fox 61 Chattanooga. Guys, in a day and time where you see 2 and 3 and 4 car operation teams, you guys competed against each other with different organizations. Do you think you had that same team mentality when you raced?
Wow.
You notice they look at each other?
Who is that? I'll tell you this. Who is that? That green flag just went down. Who is that guy?
Let me tell you this from my standpoint. My mother used to say to me all the time, Donnie, when are you and Bobby going to have a dead heat? Mom, that's not going to happen. She said, you run first and second? I said, yeah, but he's not going to let me win, and I'm damn sure not going to let him win.
Anytime we went to the races for all years, 20, 25 years, we all run together. Birmingham and Montgomery and Huntsville, places we ran 3 nights a week, Huntsville Thursday night, Birmingham Friday night, Montgomery Saturday night. And I know one thing, when I showed up at any one of those racetracks, if I was going to win that race, these are the 2 guys I was going to have to outrun.
Yeah, and you had to outrun us too, because we wouldn't give it to you, would we?
We were real competitors against each other, but we was also best friends off the racetrack. But when they dropped the green flag, it was best man win. There was no friendship there until the race was over. Then we was back to friends again.
If you didn't win, did you want to see one of the others win?
Definitely. Just I always really wanted to beat Donnie, but I always wanted him to be second, for sure.
Yeah, and he used to let me know that too.
Any more questions, guys?
But now, wait a minute. He told me one time you were a better driver than he was.
Well, I was. I was a better driver than him. I was a better driver than him. I was a better driver than him. I was a whole lot better driver than you are.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you don't believe that, there's to ask you.
Right here.
All right, for each of you. So, what was so special about being part of the Alabama gang, and do you see, like, with the current group of drivers, could there ever be another gang like?
I don't think there could be another gang like us because we won all the races, and I don't think anybody can do that. I'll tell you what, in 1962, we ran 106 races, the three of us. And between the three of us, won 96 of them.
There you go.
And I promise you, at the time, the guys that won the other 10 would have never won them if one of us could have got there, believe me. I don't take the day and time and let that happen again. You know, I like to see these two guys going to do the same thing we did. You know, just like this weekend, just a little bit, maybe one-sided, but I'd like to see Justin keep him from winning 4 in a row. But if Justin can't do that, I want to see him win 4 in a row. And the next race they go to the same thing. I got that feeling towards these guys. Hopefully they can go on and build it even bigger. Do I think that? Maybe not.
Yeah, from all the competitors these guys raced against for so many years, if you really put the right phrase up here, based on the numbers he just gave, it would be that damn Alabama gang.
Yeah, that's how the first mention that ever came along. Let me tell you about that real quick. We were running late model modifieds at the time. They were pretty popular, and we could run against the Eastern cars pretty good. I had a big race at Asheville, Weaverville, North Carolina. And I think we ran Saturday night at Montgomery and drove through the night to get to North Carolina and came pulling into Asheville, Weaverville Speedway. Nice half-mile paved track, neat place. And I was standing there when this youngster who was doing pretty good by then, Jack Ingram, made the comment, "Oh no, here comes that damn Alabama gang again." And
that's how it started.
That's exactly how that deal started.
This is for both Grant and Justin. When you guys look at, I guess, old tape, and when you guys hear old stories about what these three have done and what guys before them have done, compare what you see on the track, the style, the aggressiveness, all that, to what you see now, both in the ARCA series and in the Sprint Cup series.
I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but what I see, these guys were actually race car drivers. We're a bunch of candy asses, and he'll tell you the same thing. These guys, like, for a good example, you walk through the museum out there and you look at what these guys drive and what we drive, and it's like, these guys are nuts. I wouldn't drive it. And I mean, it's, I don't know. I mean, that's the way that's my take on it. But
yeah,
it's just,
you would have drove it.
I probably would have.
You would have took a little bit of encouraging, maybe even some threats by your granddad.
Look, if I was around then, I would have drove it. But not seeing what we have now. I wouldn't have driven it.
Yes, you would have, because I've seen you getting a couple things already that are questionable.
Well, if anyone wants to know what he's talking about, if you look at that Torino that's over there, my Torino over the museum, it's got a regular passenger car seat. It doesn't even have a brights over here, has no headrest to lean your head on, it's got one strap across here. And that's why I ran the finished 4th right behind Bobby in the 500 here at Talladega with no headrest, nothing to lean your shoulder on, just a seat with a strap on it.
Well, you're a lot tougher than them.
And that he told that for we was crazy to drive those things that we was driving nowadays, so they got all this protection and headrest and 5-star, Hans device and all that stuff. We had none of that stuff back in our days. In fact, we ran a bunch of 500-mile races with no power steering.
But based on how candid the first part of his answer was, is there any doubt he's Donnie Allison's grandson?
I think he's got it right. They were definitely tough. What did you say? 106 races. We're complaining. We raced Salem, Indiana last Sunday, and we had to be turned around for here to race on Saturday. So they're just a lot of the stuff. I don't think you can even compare. So you know, the style of racing. I think a lot of it was better. Sometimes, you know, not so much. I think this is just a different time, and I think there's definitely perks and definitely stuff we're going to miss about the old days. But I agree with Larry. I don't know if it's ever going to get back there, but there's nothing wrong with what it's doing right now.
No, when the green flag goes down now, the racing is still really good. It's the build up to it, and then the aftermath that is disappointing to a lot of us, but the racing itself really is good.
One more question over here.
You know, they think of something I remember, they talk about some of the old days. I can remember one thing that was always kind of funny. You think of it as funny now anyway, but you didn't back in those days. Back in the 60s, I remember when NASCAR had a $10,000 reward for the first car that run 150 miles an hour at Daytona. So you look at what they've got nowadays for what we had back in those days, and I saw them bringing all kind of special cars, supercharged motors, the Mad Dog, and the wings on them, trying to run 150 mile an hour at Daytona. And now the pace car runs faster than that.
That's what I was going to say, the pace car has to slow it down.
Bobby, you were inducted into the Hall of Fame, and you talk about how these guys made you better as a racer. How much did they come into your mind during your Hall of Fame induction?
Well, they came into my mind a lot in that induction, you know, both these guys. One more comment about this whole thing. I worked for this guy before I drove professionally. I had driven some amateur races before I went to work for him, but then I went to work for him, and working with him and paying attention to things as I could along got me a shot to get into a sportsman car and go on, and we've been able to stay friends all these years. Now, we were great competitors, and there weren't every Saturday night that we went to bed and weren't mad at each other, but we had a pretty good deal about that. But then Donnie, you know, Donnie came to Alabama with me on my first trip to Alabama. Donnie came along with me and two other young guys, Gil Hearn driving Kenny Andrews' car, came to Alabama. And the second week here in Alabama, Donnie Allison drove his first modified race, and I won my first modified feature in my career. And you know, you think about the good things that have happened along the way that have just added to the pleasure and to the intensity of the picture, and these two guys were big for me.